Let's take a look at this. The Independent Communications Authority of South Africa is urging the public not to buy equipment imported to get Starlink satellite internet in South Africa. The satellite internet service, owned by tech billionaire Elon Musk's SpaceX, is not yet licensed in the country. We speak more on this with Duncan McLeod. He is the Tech Central editor. Thank you very much, Duncan, for your time this afternoon. Let's take a look at Starlink satellite internet terminals. What are they?
Thanks for having me. Let's go back to the basics here. So there are several players in this what are called low Earth orbit satellite business. It's companies looking to deliver internet access, broadband internet access at reasonable prices to all corners of the world, no matter where you are. Starlink, which is owned by Elon Musk's SpaceX business, is one of those, but there are others like Project Kuiper, which is a project being led by Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon. And there's also a project called OneWeb. So there's quite a bit of competition in the space, but certainly Elon Musk and Starlink and SpaceX have taken an early lead and have already deployed many satellites into space. And these terminals are what you need to connect your ground equipment, computer, etc., to these low Earth orbit satellites. And ICASA is saying, the communications regulator is saying, these have not been duly licensed in South Africa, and they are therefore, if you're operating them, you are doing so illegally.
So they are available in the country?
Not officially, but I believe that some people, and there has been talk of one or two internet service providers bringing them in. It has actually been launched in some of our neighboring countries. Mozambique recently officially launched Starlink, and I believe some of the equipment has been coming in via that route. And other southern African countries are due to launch Starlink services soon. So I suspect we're going to see more of this equipment pouring over the border in the next little while.
The technical director of the show, Grant, is curious. He wants to know, is it because of corruption, essentially? Why is it that, I guess, they have not gotten their necessary licensing in South Africa?
I don't think it's corruption, but there's certainly a lot of conjecture and speculation about what the reasons are for this. ICASA's licensing currently requires that successful licensees have 30% shareholding from HDIs or historically disadvantaged individuals. And it could be, and this is speculation, and certainly we've seen some political parties suggesting that this is in fact the case, although Musk and SpaceX have not said anything formally. But the suggestion is that perhaps Musk and SpaceX are demurring from seeking a license here because they don't want to establish an entity here and sell 30% of their equity in that to a BEE partner. But that is pure conjecture. We don't actually know the reason that Starlink has not launched here. All we know is that if you go to starlink.com/map, which is the website where they show where Starlink is available or will be available, it shows all countries in Southern Africa will have Starlink by, I think it's the first quarter of 2025, except for South Africa, where it says specifically that there is no service launch date yet. We've sent some further questions through to ICASA to determine exactly what further engagements they've had with SpaceX, if any, on this issue, and I'm waiting for answers on that. But right now, anything is speculation as to why Starlink has no launch date set for South Africa yet.
The irony of that. But we understand that ICASA says non-type approved equipment pose a risk of causing harmful interference to the radio frequency spectrum. What is the consequence or the risk of not getting license, if at all?
So one of the most important things that ICASA does is it manages the national radio frequency spectrum. It's one of the most important functions of communications regulators around the world. And it's critically important for a number of reasons, but one of them is to prevent interference between services. So you can't have a free-for-all chaotic situation where anyone can come into the country and launch telecommunications services and bring in equipment that may not comply with South African rules and standards and, in fact, may cause interference, for example, with a cellular network or a broadcasting network or a Department of Defense network, for example. So it's absolutely critical that ICASA manages the national spectrum in a way that is fair and also ensures that there isn't this sort of interference. And I think they have a very good point, specifically around spectrum management, that you can't just have these services being launched in South Africa without regulatory say-so, because you will end up with chaos and interference and all sorts of other problems. So ICASA has a very valid point there. Where I think perhaps they should be criticized a little is over their apparent unwillingness to kind of grease the wheels to allowing Starlink to launch in South Africa. There have been no new network service licenses, for example, issued for many years, and it's not clear why. The Minister of Communications, according to ICASA, has to issue an invitation to apply for a network license of national scope. It's also not clear why that hasn't happened, or why ICASA apparently hasn't been putting pressure on the government for that to happen. So there are a lot of aspects to this story, but certainly ICASA is right in saying that you can't just bring this stuff in willy-nilly, because it is going to create anarchy.
Okay. I just quickly want to digress to the Mozambique example that you gave. Do they have the necessary regulatory approval in that country, Starlink, that is?
That is correct. So it's actually launched already in Mozambique and Zambia, as well as several other countries, some of the Indian Ocean islands, and I think there are some other mainland. I think Kenya may have launched as well now. And all of those countries have given the necessary regulatory go-ahead to Starlink to launch services. So they're all above board there. But that has not happened in South Africa yet. Okay.
When you speak of it being curious that we haven't greased the wheels to allow Starlink to launch in South Africa, why is Starlink special?
Well, there are a lot of these companies that are going to be offering services in South Africa. The answer is Starlink is not special, and as much as Musk may think he is, it's not special. And all companies, not just Starlink, it's competitors too. So Jeff Bezos's Project Caper is going to have to go through a similar process or work through local partners on the ground. And similarly, OneWeb is going to have to go through similar process. In fact, those companies are going through similar processes and working with local partners. So it can be done. And the rules, as they currently state, they state that you have to have 30% HDI ownership. Whether you agree with that or not, that's a matter for debate. But those are the rules currently. And if Starlink wants to operate in South Africa, they need to comply with those rules. Whether those rules are fair or not, I think that's open for debate.
What is 30% HDI ownership?
Historically disadvantaged individuals, largely black ownership, people with disabilities, women, etc.
Mm-hmm. So where do you see this going, at least? I mean, if you were to read between the lines, I'm not sure if you've reached out to SpaceX as a publication to sort of find out why South Africa is being snubbed.
We have not had a response yet. We have tried in the past as well to get comment on this issue from SpaceX, but unfortunately there's been no feedback whatsoever from the company.
So it's literally sending it into space. Well, sorry. Thank you very much, Duncan, for your time. Duncan McLeod is the editor of the publication Tech Central.